and we are going to get the party going here. So glad that you are here. Before we hear from our speakers, can I just ask all the members of the Religious Affairs Committee of the Fairfax branch of the NAACP to raise your hand? And let's just give them all. So for months we've been talking and working and getting ready. So we are now here ready to go. So first off, I wanted to introduce Paul Baldino, who is the Vice Chair of Nova Parks, to share a few words.
Good afternoon. What a beautiful day. So I'm here to welcome you for the Nova Parks Board of Directors and the staff who have put so much effort into organizing, and they're supporting this event. We're very proud of Nova Parks' commitment to present African American history here at Bull Run, at Tinner Hill and Falls Church, and on historic markers throughout the park system. On Juneteenth itself, we'll be celebrating at the Tinner Hill Historic Park. As many of you know, at that site in 1915, a group of African Americans organized to fight a town segregation ordinance. They were successful, and they became the first rural branch of the NAACP. Here at Bull Run, Robert Carter's Emancipation of the Enslaved is a reminder that despite the norms of society, despite the expectations of others, we can stand up and do right by our fellow men and women. Those who were freed and their descendants, some of whom I'm sure are here today, were met with discrimination and adversity at every turn. They responded with determination, with resilience, and with strength. Their trials and their triumphs are interwoven in the fabric of our nation. It's a story that continues, and we all share in the responsibility to assure that the promise of America is enjoyed by all. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate that. Next, I'd like to ask Karen Champlin to come forward. So, about 3 years ago, I had a conversation with Karen and said we have an amazing story here. And she was the president of the Fairfax branch of NAACP at the time, and we've been friends ever since.
Yes.
And share your thoughts.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Karen Champlin. I'm the current second vice president of the Fairfax County NAACP. So, on behalf of our leadership, our president, Nikki Zimmerman, and our membership, I'd like to say thank you for joining us here for a third year. And so I just have a few words. I'm going to be short because I know we've got a really wonderful and long program, and you'd rather do that than see me talk. So I'm going to be extremely brief. But as you know, Juneteenth is a day of profound weight and power. Juneteenth holds many milestones and evokes powerful emotions. Its origins traces back to 1865, when it marked the day that emancipation reached the enslaved in the furthest reaches of the South. Despite the Emancipation Proclamation legally being announced that all enslaved individuals were freed in 1863. It took that long for the news to reach everyone. Since then, Juneteenth serves as a stark reminder of the horrific period in our history when men, women, and children were considered property, less than human. It stands as a solemn moment urging us never to regress and to remain vigilant in safeguarding our progress. Yet Juneteenth is also a celebration, a testament to the fortitude, the perseverance, and the strength of our ancestors. As a community, we celebrate our ability to strive, to work together, to build a more just and beloved society where everyone can thrive. Today, again, our third year in a row, we gather to honor the largest private emancipation of the enslaved and to pay tribute to the burial ground where many of the freed are interred. This site, where blacks and whites worshiped together as early as 1775, symbolizes our ongoing fight for a world where race does not determine our worth, it does not determine our opportunities, and it does not determine our advancements. Let us remember the Harris family and the story of Robert Carter III. This place was once a thriving freedmen's community, existing 70 years before the Civil War and the Emancipation Proclamation. So again, on behalf of the NAACP Fairfax County, I thank you for joining us in this honor, commemoration, and celebration today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. As Karen mentioned, this site is pretty remarkable in that this was, to our knowledge, the largest emancipation of enslaved people prior to the Civil War. Over 500 people were emancipated, were allowed to run businesses, have farms, have a thriving community, and the descendants of those emancipated by Robert Carter III in the 1790s are here today. We're going to hear from Crystal Gaskins, who is one of the descendants and is a representative of the family who's done a lot of historic research. Crystal, if you'll come forward. She just gave us a bound book of historic research that she has done. And it's pretty remarkable because this is a story that should be taught in every history book. And part of what we're doing here today is to raise up that history and make it relevant. Thank you, Crystal.
Thank you, everyone, for coming out. Just for words of being able to do this for the third year in a row, it's been remarkable. I'd like to thank everybody. August 1st of 1791, that's 233 years ago, Robert Carter III not only sat down and he wrote out this deed, and he called it a deed of gift for his emancipation. He freed his people just based off the fact that he felt as though, because of his religion, that they shouldn't be enslaved. Now, we recognize the Harris family of Centerville, and we remember and we learn about what their contributions in the area mean. You had Charles Harris that petitioned the Freedmen's Bureau to help build a school, and we had Jesse and Jemima Harris Robinson Harris donated property for Rock Hill School, which is one of the African American schools in this area, not too far down the road from here. You had George Harris and Anthony Bernard Harris that helped build Covering Primitive Church, which is about 2 miles down the road from here. We have Samuel Harris that donated land for Mount Olive Baptist Church, which some of you may have passed on your way here. We have the road petitions that the family did, listing Elijah Harris, Alfred Spriggs Harris, Anthony Harris, William Harris, Jesse, Lizzie, Jemima, Obed. They all donated property to help the road be built from Compton all the way out to 28. And then we have Garnetta Harris. Garnetta Harris, with her siblings, donated property in 1963 to the Park Service. And this is the property in which now that is the pool. But at one time it was a farm. Families was raised here. Their loved ones grew up, ran and played here. So right now, I'd just like to ask those that are in attendance for the Harris family, just stand up or wave your hand. We did a lot of research, but we haven't found it all yet. And with the help of the NAACP and the Park Service, we're going to continue to find that family history and continue to make this crowd grow even more every year. Thank you.
Thank you. The contributions of the Harris family and all those other families that descended from those emancipated is really remarkable. And I think maybe for some of our younger listeners here, they may not understand the significance of this land being donated for a pool in 1963. But in 1963, segregation was the law of the land. And the Harris family donated this 6 acres that we are on right here, specifically so Nova Parks could build an integrated pool. And a few years later, we opened this pool that's right behind us as the largest public pool in Virginia at the time, and integrated from day one. So that was an amazing contribution by the Harris family that is very appreciated. So many contributions. I'll mention one other that I don't think has been mentioned yet, which is Alfred Harris. So Alfred Harris in the 1880s, Alfred Harris grew up right here on this property in Bull Run. In the 1880s, he was a state delegate and passed the bill that created the first HBCU in Virginia. So contributions that run very deep. So next, Supervisor Kathy Smith from Fairfax County, and this is Shelley District of New York.
'Twas grace that brought us safe thus far, and grace will lead us home.
In your program are the words to lift every voice and sing. So we'll sing that together.
You feel free to jump in whenever you would like. We're going to sing it 2 times. We're going to sing the first verse and the chorus. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song for the earth and the darkness is tossed. Sing a song full of the faith that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the darkness has brought us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rise march on till victory is won.
Excellent.
Thank you, Sheila. So we just sang these beautiful lines. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. So let's connect those words to the history of this place. So the history of this place is being uncovered literally as we speak. Over the past few weeks, volunteers from different communities in the area have been working with Nova Parks to make the area look as beautiful as it looks. To me, it looks really holy. And 250 years ago, when the cemetery began, it also looked holy, but it looked different. The trees weren't here. You didn't see this a few weeks ago, but there was a lot of brush from the winter and the fall and the spring here, and volunteers have cleared that. And as volunteers have cleared this area, they have discovered more probable sites where people who worshipped here are buried. So we know of 94 burial sites, and you walked past them where the wonderful Girl Scouts of the Thank you. Brought flowers. So it's a work in progress. What you see now, of course, is different because different from 1775, because in 1775 there was a church here. We don't know exactly where, but it was the Bull Run Baptist Church, and the cemetery was associated with the church. That church was established by free people, black and white, and by enslaved people. The enslaved people worked on a plantation here that belonged to Robert Carter III. You've heard about Robert Carter III already. They worshiped together, and Robert Carter III's oldest son is buried here. He died of tuberculosis in this area in 1779. So if you were here almost 250 years ago, you would have seen the church and its new cemetery, the plantation owned by Robert Carter. You would have seen a lot of plantation activity around, and you would have seen afterwards, you would have known if you'd been here that Robert Carter at that time was beginning his own conversion process. And you probably would have heard that Robert Carter was going through a conversion process after watching his slaves, or the people that he controlled as slaves, going through their own conversion process. And at that time, you would have seen enslaved persons, free blacks, free whites, worshiping together. And their worship together would sometimes prompt violence from white people in the area who didn't like the fact that they were worshiping together. They feared that enslaved persons and white people worshiping together would create social disorder, or even worse, a slave rebellion. And so you would have been aware that churches like Bull Run Baptist Church were petitioning the state legislature to allow freedom of worship. And you would have been aware that prominent Virginians like Thomas Jefferson and James Madison were supporting those petitions in the state legislature, even while they were not freeing the persons that they controlled as slaves, even though Robert Carter III was. So, and if you lived here at that time, you probably would have been aware that even though the enslaved and white people worshiped together, they really didn't worship together. Their worship wasn't really completely together. You would know that the vast majority of enslaved persons in this area and in the state did not have the opportunity to worship in a organized church. And if you were white, you probably would, remark, at least this is what historians tell us, if you're a white person, you would probably remark that enslaved persons felt their experience of conversion more emotionally and more as a community than white people did. And if you were a white Virginian, you probably would have remarked that when black people buried their loved ones in the cemetery, that they were more emotional and they felt it more deeply. They seemed to feel it more deeply than white people did. And you may have remarked that there were parts of their ritual that you didn't understand, that perhaps were things that they learned from their parents and their parents' parents and their parents' parents for many years in the past. And if you were a slave, an enslaved person, you probably would have felt that you weren't really a member of the congregation in the same way that the white people were. You probably would have perceived that the congregation was part of the system of control, of keeping you in line. And you probably would have noticed over time that your black brothers and sisters in the congregation, they were being kicked out by the white people who controlled the congregation for behavior that the white people had never seemed to notice white people doing, what white people were doing. So over time, this church, which was started as a multiracial church, became a church of just African Americans primarily. And then if you go forward about 100 years, the African Americans who were freed by Robert Carter and other African Americans in this area built communities here. They owned land, they built property. And you heard the story about the Harris family. The Harris family and other families, operated farms in this area. And they went to other churches in this area. The Bull Run Baptist Church, which was originally associated with the cemetery, closed down in 1825. So history's dark past from that song has become our song of hope, because the Baptist ministers who preached to enslaved and free persons have given us hope. Because the enslaved persons, some of whom almost certainly are buried here, whose conversion helped to inspire Robert Carter's conversion and his decision to manumit his slaves. Because the lives that were built by those freed persons, and because of what those freed persons, including those buried here, have given to all of us, in building schools, in donating land for parks for all of us to use. So I think that this dark past and Song of Hope help us to think about Juneteenth and emancipation in a historically appropriate way. That's not simply an anniversary, but it's something that we remember not as an anniversary, but we remember as an ongoing struggle for emancipation that's continuing. So the next thing we'd like to do is we would like to recognize all the leaders of faith communities and churches and congregations who are here. So if I could ask you to
part of this amazing celebration, and this is just really amazing. I've learned so much. The history is amazing, something I never really knew about. So being able to walk and read and hear stories from Eliza, thank you to Eliza and Rocky. This is really an amazing event, and I do plan on attending if you guys have more. The song that I'm about to sing is called You Are, and it's written as a love letter to God. But today I want us to just keep in mind, in our hearts and our minds, those who were enslaved that died for freedom. I want us to keep that in mind while you're listening to the song. Living in a crazy world, trying to make it all make sense. I see my troubles all around, but in my head there's no fix. No, 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 no. And when the night hits in the silence, I can feel my thoughts are rushing. I feel helpless and now I'm desperate. I can use you as my exit. You are everything. You are the air I breathe. You are all I need. You are everything. You are the air I breathe. You are all I need. You are. It's faith what I need. I'm asking that you come and take the lead. what to do. We're calling out to you. And when the night hits in the silence, I can feel my thoughts are rushing. I feel helpless and I'm desperate. I can use you as my exit. You are everything. You are the air I breathe. You are all I need. You are everything. You are the air I breathe. You are all I need. You are, you are, you are,
High ceilings, women in leadership, and dreaming in black and white. And Bishop Fuller, I'm recognizing you now. I didn't get you when we were recognizing the faith leaders. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the introduction. I'm also grateful for Janae and Eliza for the music, the worship, and the memory that commemorative songs bring to our lives. Grateful for the NAACP hosting this, for all of the park service and your hard work and making sure this can be special, for the elected officials who are honored in their service, and for the Girl Scouts who led us this way. Thank you so much, and Malcolm Street Baptist. I appreciate all who served. This is my third year participating, and I'm grateful every time I get an invitation, because everything about what this is kind of a forerunner to who I am and what the Lord has been able to produce through my life. The black and white folk could actually worship together in the 18th century here on these grounds at some level. It was kind of the door opener for everything that I wanted to build when I came here to Washington, D.C. in 1982. We moved to Virginia sometime in the 1990s, and we established a congregation that doesn't look a whole lot like me. We got white folk and black folk worshiping. I got generations worshiping. I got gray hair more than I really want, but I've turned over my congregation to the younger generation. So I got a 29-year-old who's running about 3,000 on a Sunday morning. He's crushing it. It's not fair he's that good at that age. It's just not fair. I wasn't. And I didn't turn it over because I couldn't do it anymore. I still think I've got a fastball. I'm not on the mound throwing junk. But I turned it over because they could. And I realized that I was going to be the ceiling to their progress. And so I let them have it. And I figured out something else to do, because the Lord can always provide stuff for me to do. But they could do that, and I didn't need to because they could. Our congregation has white folk, black folk. We have 2 Latino congregations within our congregation. We have a Korean congregation within our congregation. We are doing everything we possibly can to make the earth look like what heaven is. In the book of Revelation, it says that there was every nation, every tongue, every tribe, every people that were worshiping at the throne. And Jesus said something about us being able to bring, at least in desire, everything that's in heaven on earth. We prayed in the Lord's Prayer regularly. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done. Where? How? We pray it, and it's usually just by rote. But he was serious when he quoted it. When he coined that phrase, he wanted us to not think about how to get to heaven as much as to think about how we can bring heaven to earth. And so every Sunday morning, I got a little bit of it, just a taste. We're not perfect. We're a messed up group of people trying to figure out how to get more right every day. But at least when people walk in, they say, there's something different about these people that looks a whole lot like what I think heaven's supposed to be. So when I come here, I realize somebody did it before me. I didn't figure this thing out on my own. There was a forerunner, and I'm very, very grateful. I've been tasked with the responsibility to speak about hope. And 1 Corinthians 13:13 says this. Paul is writing about the idea of spiritual gifts and how love is the anchor to all that we do. And if we don't have love, then whatever we do isn't done as well as it should be. And he says at the very end of the chapter, now abideth faith, hope, and love, but the greatest of these is love. Now why is love the greatest? Only because it's the most enduring. See, when we get to heaven, we will always love him. In fact, our love will probably grow exponentially as we see the nail scars in his hands and in his feet, and the spear scar in his side. Realizing what it took to get us there, we will always love him. But there will be no need for hope because we've realized it. There'll be no need for faith because we see what we know we wanted things to be. But while we are here, we need faith, hope, and love. All three of them. Because if we don't have hope, hope is that which anchors us in believing that tomorrow can be just a little bit better than today. And today may not be as good as you like, and so you've got to have hope to believe that tomorrow is worth getting up for. Hope is that which anchors us in the belief that tomorrow can be a little bit better than today. There's a book written by a man named Casey Wynn, who the book is called Hope Rising, and it's how the science of hope can change your life. It's a book that quantifies hope. A guy named Joseph Belezo was a doctor in San Diego, and he was over much of what happened in the ER triage. And too often they saw people come in on an ambulance with a widowmaker, a heart attack that most people never recover from. Generally speaking, 8% in 2010. If you had a widowmaker, you recovered from it. 92 died. He decided he would do something different. And he began to incorporate a new method of treatment. It's called an extracorporeal membrane oxygenation system. A woman came in with a widowmaker, and everybody in the ER really gets very discouraged because they realize somebody's about to die. And he incorporated this new way of doing treatment for people that had very serious heart attacks. And it was to take much of their blood, put it through a system and put it back in, but while they were doing it, oxygenated. The woman survived. And everybody in the ER began to say, man, we can see more people saved. That's great. Turns out that now when people use this extracorporeal oxidation machine, that 28% of the people survived. And so the entire ER had hope that as long as they had enough machines, they could see more people saved. But the beauty was this. Not just that people who were put on the machine were helped, but the entire group in the ER now began to believe that everybody who came in could have greater impact. They could see more health given to them. In fact, everybody who had a widowmaker now had increased in their ability to see survival at 28%, not just the people who were on the machine. Hope had an impact to everybody in the ER. A guy named Dr. Richt from St. John's University. This is a pretty morbid story, but it'll stick with you. Not St. John's, this is Johns Hopkins in Baltimore. He decided he was going to try to figure out how he could quantify hope. And he took some rats, domesticated rats first. And then secondly, he took some wild rats. The domesticated rats he took and put in a tub of water from which there was no exit. And all the animal rights groups would have sued him today. But he waited to see how long they would swim until they died. Many of the rats swam around the top, went down to the bottom to see if there was an exit, and then gave up the ghost. 12 rats. All of them died. Some of them swam longer than others. But all of the domesticated rats swam much longer than the hardy, fierce wild rats. Now, you would think that the hardy, fierce wild rats would swim much more long because they were amazing in their survival instincts. But they died much quicker because in the environment in which they live, there's no hope. When they get in trouble, they quit. But all the domesticated rats, because they had been cared for, thought, somebody might come to my rescue. So they lived longer. And then he decided to do this. He took the same experiment with the domesticated rats, had them swim around for a while, and as they were about to go down, he pulled them out, he dried them off, he comforted them, gave them some food, water, put them back in. The domesticated rats, generally on average, swam anywhere from 1 to 2 hours. But after they were cared for, as they were about to die, he put them back in, they swam for days. Days. Why? Because they had hope that somebody would help them. Hope is absolutely essential if we want to do better tomorrow than we do today. And this is why the Apostle Paul says, there are 3 things that are absolutely essential for our survival. I realize that food and water are essential for our bodies, but for our souls, faith, hope, and love. These are the greatest things. And we need to hold on to hope every day, believing that tomorrow can be better than today. Dr. King said this, there is the finality of temporary disappointment, but we must not give up on the idea of infinite hope. It's my prayer that you would desire and grab on and hold on to hope. That when it gets really, really bad, and I mean there are bad days around the corner. I'm not a prophet who's trying to figure out how to make your tomorrows seem very pessimistic. But I've lived long enough to know that I've had probably more bad than good days. But I've been able to turn some of those bad days into better days as a result of believing that this circumstance, if I use it well, is going to help me become what I couldn't become right now tomorrow. That I'm going to be a better human being if I face it well, if I don't give up, if I choose not to have a bad attitude, if I believe that my God can be inserted in my circumstances and help me become more and help me do better, then I can grow through this, not just go through this. It is absolutely critical that hope is inserted intentionally into your life. Whether it's your friends who don't believe in you, whether it's your coaches who say you're not enough, and maybe your parents aren't everything that you would like them to be, and your friends don't actually help you become what you want to be. And you look in the mirror every day, and all you begin to see is every failure you've ever done, all that you've done wrong, everything that is not you and everything that you wish could be. Hope is that which says you can be more, and you do not have to be stuck in the environment in which you find yourself. Your today is not your tomorrow, and surely your failures from yesterday do not have to be the foundation for your future. Everything that the Lord wants to do in your life is different than what has happened. And if you look throughout the Bible, you'll find people who surely weren't the greatest candidates for what they were going to do. Surely not. I mean, God chose to use murderers. That's what Moses was. He murdered a guy. And the Lord said, I can go ahead and still use you. I can use you. Saul, who became Paul, the writer of 2/3 of the New Testament, the greatest Christian apostle who's ever lived. He was a murderer, a jailer of Christians. Guys, I know. I can use you. There aren't many disqualifiers from God being able to take you from nothing to something. But you've got to have hope. And I surely am not the guy that was God's first round draft choice. I'm convinced that the only reason I got to be where I am is that a whole bunch of other people said no. I was just available. Just available. I said, sure, I'll go to Washington. I'm from Kansas. I came here in 1982 to help establish the church that I've now given over and pastored. We planted 15 other congregations all around the world. 8 in Washington, D.C. And all I was trying to do was when I was called to the ministry is figure out how in the world I could help my mama explain to her friends what I was doing. Because I was ministering at Howard University. I was a campus minister. I'm about to close. And I was doing things. I'd raised my money and I was serving kids at the university there. And all her friends would ask, so what's Brett doing now? Oh, he's in Washington, D.C. He's a minister. Oh, he's got a church? No, not exactly. He's at Howard University. Oh, they hired him? Not exactly. I just wanted something that was easy for my mama to explain. Lord, give me a church. Let me be pastor of 200 people. I'll be happy. And he's given me so much more. Because I had a vision for what my life could be beyond what the limitations of my background said. And nothing about me can take any credit for anything that's ever been done. And I haven't done that much. But whatever I've done is far beyond whatever I thought I could. But one thing I didn't give up on, and I wasn't the most competent, I wasn't the most educated, I wasn't the most well-spoken, I wasn't the most talented, I wasn't the most smart. But what I was somebody who had hope that God could do something in me. And I made myself available to make it happen. I want you all to believe on these grounds today, you see the people who had hope in impossible circumstances. What does hope look like for a slave every day? What does it look like? How is your life going to be any different? Is it Groundhog Day all over again, except worse? Because now you don't have the resources you used to have to be able to do what you needed to do. You were stronger yesterday than you were today, and so you can't pick as much, which means your master's not going to be as happy with you, which means he very well might beat you. What does hope look like? And these people grabbed onto it even when it didn't seem like it was grabbable. And every day they worshiped. They thanked him. They inspire me. They do. And I hope that you are inspired by the idea that God can do much more than you ever thought possible. Father, I'm asking for your grace upon these, that you would help them to understand who you are and how you think about them, that their thoughts should not be the defining thoughts. Yours ought to be. Have your way with them, I pray, and do great in their lives tomorrow. Amen.
That's good.
Thank you, Pastor Fuller, for those words of hope.
Well, words of hope. Pastor Fuller, Bishop Fuller has done 3 years in a row. I told him before we started that we'd already booked him for the 30th edition, so, keep coming back. But part of hope is looking forward. I just want to give you guys something to look forward to at this very moment, which is we're going to go back to the shelter, and there we're going to have ice cream, which was generously sponsored by Dominion Power. So we appreciate Dominion for supporting this wonderful effort, and there will be ice cream for everyone. So enjoy.
Everybody need a tip, I call Stacy. Yeah.